Hello and welcome to another episode of the Academy podcast by Anfield Index. And I'm once again joined by Academy expert Lewis Boer. How are we doing, Lewis?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Not too bad. Nice day where I am. You good?
Yeah, good. It's been nice over the international break, obviously, until a couple of days ago. We may as well start with that. Obviously, it is the Academy podcast, and we had the news about Trent going to Real Madrid. And the question I've kind of got for you is, it might sound a bit of a stupid question at first, but it's kind of how will Trent's exit kind of impact the Academy? Obviously, probably not directly, but kind of emotionally. He's probably been the poster boy of the academy for so many years. I mean, in my lifetime, since Gerrard probably. Um, and now obviously probably been a pretty big selling point for the academy as well.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But on the other hand, I also don't think the premise of Liverpool managing to coach a player from the academy to the point where they're good enough to attract the attention of the likes of Real Madrid is an entirely bad thing. They've managed to get a good 8 years of service out of him, which that in itself is an achievement. So, but there's the route to the first team there, and then what we all like to see Liverpool as the pinnacle of football as fans. But um, Real Madrid is always one to consider for footballers, it seems, and it it could help with the academy in some ways. It says we can get you to where we need you to be, and if the opportunity does come a knocking, we would more than happy to facilitate that, whichever way you look at it, whoever's fault it seems to be this situation. I feel like in this particular case, FSG aren't too much to blame,
Yeah.
but it's looking pretty inevitable now.
Yeah, and just obviously the talk over the past few days has been about replacing Trent. I know that's pretty much an impossible job. I think he's irreplaceable. I think you're better off just signing a completely different, right? You're not going to get another Trent Alexander-Arnold. Obviously, a lot of people are saying Conor Bradley. Obviously, you know Conor Bradley a lot more than a lot of us. Obviously, watch him come through the ranks. Do you think he's ready to step up, or do you still think Liverpool need to sign another right back to be above him or compete with him?
I think regardless of Bradley's ability, there needs to be a right back stand. I don't think there's anybody immediately ready to step up from the academy at the moment. Whether Conor Bradley's good enough to start week in, week out for Liverpool, I think he's still. I think the jury's still out. I think he's been good in patches. I think the more the sample size we get, the I think the performances would average out to maybe not the high highs that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Um, but there's some people who will question Bradley's um, defensive ability, despite him being quite different to Trent in that regard. Um, so I remember the Nottingham Forest goal with the first game out, and he sort of lost. A lot of people did seem to blame that on Bradley. But that's just one instance, and there's so much more to defend him. And Matt is a very different type of attacking player. I think he's more of a ball carrier, more of a runner in behind and under the winger than Trent. So it would certainly take some rejigging of the team. But I think with Trent leaving, that's going to be the case anyways. He's a very unique player, and it's going to be about replacing him in the aggregate, as people like to say. Maybe they'll add some more defensive stability, and then the left back will become the creative outlet. And the Conor Bradley situation is interesting in itself. I think we spoke about it last time, but he himself only has 2 years left on his contract.
Yeah.
Actually, I do know that he has been offered a new one in December, um, and it was far away from anywhere close to being acceptable.
Mm.
Um, so we'll see. So it does look like the club want to tie him down, but I think a new right back will come in.
Yeah, it seems like we're hearing that quite a bit about contracts being thrown around at the minute. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of moving on from that situation because I think everyone's kind of had enough of talking about Trent this week. Rio Ngumoha, obviously, we haven't really spoke about him as much as what we were kind of before Christmas. Obviously, he played in the FA Cup game against Shrewsbury, didn't play against Plymouth, but I saw a few clips of him out on international break. It looked like he was having a bit of fun out there. So, kind of, what's his progress looking like at the minute? Obviously, I know he's so young, kind of it'll come in peaks and troughs, but yeah, how is he kind of looking at the minute?
I do think he still needs more time. I think he'll obviously, probably obviously at this point, go on the first team tour in the summer. Well, for England, that England under-17 team is quite something though. The likes of Rio himself, Max Dowman, Finley Gorman, Harry Howell is a great young player. It's not, I don't want to say golden generation, but certainly a star-studded team, and it was a convincing win against Northern Ireland. I mean, without looking too in depth, I imagine the level of the Northern Irish players are lower than that of the England team. So they're expected to win, but Rio Ngumoha, um, he took his goals well. The first goal, very nice dribble, stood up his man, and left him into a corner. And it's what we want to see more of, really. That end product, which
Yeah.
people do lambast him for. Um, I think it's just about seeing the season out. He has pretty much been officially promoted to the under-21s, you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, regular there. Although he did play for the under-18s in the league in the last time out, but the under-21s didn't have a game. So I feel he'll see the season out with the under-21s, and we're still waiting on the similar level of performance for the under-18s. But he's always a threat whenever he's on the ball. He's like a he absorbs the space. He attracts men around him. Doubled and tripled up, and um, he's got the ability. That'll be something he just has to get used to. So I imagine he'll see the season out with the 21s. If Liverpool can win the league early, we may see him there, but that's probably another conversation in itself. Um,
Yeah.
but a good season. I think if you'd been critical, you, you would have wanted more goals from him. The
Yeah.
amount, it's just the one goal. It was against Chelsea in the um, quarter final of the under-18 Premier League Cup, so a big one. But he would want more end product, but that will come with time. The areas of his game are something to mould around. Very dangerous player. So, it's been a promising season. I'd say in comparison to other players who have took that same route, the likes of Doak, Clark. Um, every young player is different, of course. I'd say he's just had a solid season. Whereas I'd put somebody like Ben Doak in his maiden season at the top of the
Yeah.
performance charts.
Yeah, and just moving on elsewhere in the academy, obviously Jaden Dan's out on loan at Sunderland. Well, officially he is. Obviously has a few injury problems, and I don't know if you've seen, but Regis Lebris, the Sunderland manager, spoke in his press conference today, saying that he basically has no clue when Dan's is going to be fit. Just how much, I know he's had a few injury problems in the past. How much of a blow will this be to him, or do you think the academy and Dan's will be quite relaxed about it?
I think he'll be relaxed about the situation. He's definitely got time on his side.
Yeah.
Still extremely young, but he does also seem to be picking up a fair few injuries at a young age. So it'll just be down to a diagnosis, really. So whether that's because of growing, you'd expect
Yeah.
him to stop eventually, and he'll just slowly phase out. But he has missed a fair bit of football this season, to be fair. And just from of seeing what his character is like. I'm sure he's gutted. It's a very strange loan move in the first place. Although I did see the Sunderland manager say that he'd been joining up with the squad in terms of like
Yeah.
team harmony, the cat. So, but that will be a valuable experience, I suppose. They're getting him outside of his comfort zone of Liverpool, having been there pretty much his whole life. So there's that tiny consolation to take from it. It's looking like we might not see him by the end of the season at this point. If he's back training to hit the ground running and get back to the level that you need to be for Championship football. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and just kind of looking forward to the future for him, obviously, assuming he doesn't really kick a ball for the rest of the season, do you think it is just going to be a case of another Championship loan move next season? Do you think someone could even, if they don't go up, maybe look to sign him on loan again?
Yeah, definitely. Although maybe would Sunderland be put off with this
Yeah.
situation? Maybe, I don't know. I would say just be fit for pre-season if you don't play by the end of the season. Some minutes under your belt and show your worth. He was in first team training regularly under Arne Slot, and he was used in the first team. So you'd imagine that'll be the case in the summer, and seems to be liked enough by Slot. But with that as well, it looks like there's going to be a lot of attacking turnover this summer, whether that's including Mo Salah or not. But with likes of Nunes, Diaz, even Jota, to be fair, you'd imagine Dan's will be in the first team picture at the start of the season, but it should be another loan. He needs to play men's football now.
Yeah. And just kind of sticking with the Championship loans, obviously Ben Doak had a really good start to the season. He picked up an injury, and Kumas as well kind of seemed to have a really good, strong start of the season, and maybe has tailed off a little bit, but obviously Stoke are kind of struggling. So kind of what's their progress at the minute? What's the latest with them?
Well, Kumas is doing well enough, and he seems to be very well liked by all of his teammates. I think I've said it before, but what stands him in really good stead for me is Stoke have had 3 different managers this season, and not only is that very different experience for him, but 3 different managers have liked him well enough to be a regular starter. That's very good, and Mark Robbins is somebody who I personally rate quite highly. To be fair, Liverpool usually seem quite reluctant to let players go to the Championship. Apart from this season, they seem to have allowed a lot more players to go, and seen players maybe wait a season longer than Kumas has. So to be playing week in, week out in the Championship is very, very impressive. I still see people debating his long-term position, whether that be as a centre forward or as a winger. He did play as a centre forward in the academy, but maybe he could play as a winger who runs from out to in, a good goal-scoring winger. And Ben Doak, on the other hand, Middlesbrough's form seems to have nosedived since he's not been in the team. There's obviously other factors to do that.
Yeah.
A lot of defensive as well. And he's definitely a big miss for him. You genuinely put Ben Doak in the conversation for maybe one of the best young wing championship this season. I think if he played the entirety of the season, he may be in contention for the Young Player of the Year award there, but I don't think he'd. But he'd definitely be up there. And it's such a shame, really. The injuries always seem to come at the worst possible time for Dirk. seems a very different situation to Dan's. But Dan's all seems to be back and growth related.
Yeah.
Um, what's good for Dirk is he's come back from a big injury before and performed to a really good level. So he's got that mental grit, the determination, the character profile to be able to come back and hit the ground running. Hopefully the injury is one that doesn't affect him too much, and you'll imagine it'll be pre-season.
Yeah, and just the last kind of thing I want to ask you about is obviously we're heading towards the end of the season now, and Liverpool are out all the cup competitions. I know we last time we spoke, we probably only had the League Cup final left to play anyway. We won't talk about that. Just kind of, what's your thoughts on Arne Slot's use of the academy this season? I mean, it's been quite different to Klopp's, but also you could argue Klopp's kind of had his hands tied behind his back last season with the amount that he used. So yeah, kind of, what's your thoughts on the way Slot's used the academy so far?
I think he's done an adequate job of using players when needed. When we take these things into account, we have to be realistic and look at the academy itself and say who is ready to step up and play first team minutes. He did give the chance to Amara Nalla, but no happened there. And that and it does seem to have knocked his confidence, to be fair. When he first came in, there were a few eyebrows raised. There seemed to be no academy players in first team training, apart from Leone. And it was almost it didn't look like he was going to be utilised in the academy too much. But as the season's progressed, we've seen more faces introduced, even like Trent, Doherty, Kieran Morrison. I think after a worrying start, things definitely picked up. I think Liverpool were very lucky with Jurgen Klopp. I don't think there's any manager really in terms of getting the most in his utilisation out of the prospects that we don't consider the likes of Reece Williams, players like that. I don't think any other manager would be using Reece Williams in that situation. I think they would have done something like put Henderson centre back, which Klopp did do but we may have been more persistent with that. And I think Klopp was one of the best for that, and Slot was got the hard task of comparing to that. He seems to really like James McConnell, and it seems that he's leapfrogged Tyler Morton in the hierarchy, really, which is interesting. But he's one that's probably going to be looking. But I think he'll likely be playing men's football. I'd say it's been a good start for his use of the academy. We've had Nalla and Ngumoha make his debut. Conor Bradley, Isaac Mabea made his debut this season. But yeah, pre-season will be interesting. Last year he really liked Luke Stevenson.
Yeah.
On Dundee. Not to suggest that he's ready to make the step up yet or anything of those lines, but there are players what he does like, which maybe are in the are too obvious to the fans, where they've got the fundamentals nailed down, and I think it's more about tactical work with Slot. It's following instructions, the ability to follow instructions.
Yeah.
And it's been a good start, I'd say, good enough.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of those. Maybe the longer into his kind of reign, he starts trusting the academy a bit more. So I think I might be completely wrong in saying this, but I feel like that kind of happened with Klopp, where the longer he was at the club, the more he started to trust them. But But yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, I can't wait for next season, see who else comes through. But yeah, that's it for today. So thank you very much, Lewis, for coming on and giving your time again. We really do appreciate it. If anyone hasn't, go and check Lewis out on Twitter. There's no one better around for all the academy sort of stuff. So yeah, make sure to check it out and keep an eye out for the next podcast. We look to do these nearly like every month or so. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much for listening.